It's dolphin time.
It's dolphin time.
In 1996, Scholastic began publishing Animorphs. Over the next 6 years, Katherine Applegate and her husband, Michael Grant, under the pseudonym K.A. Applegate, produced 54 main series books, several spin-offs, and inspired a TV series, graphic novels, and a cult following. We can't tell you where we live. We can't even tell you our last names. But we can tell you our thoughts and feelings on this series, book by book. I'm Miranda.
I'm Eddie.
And I'm Chris.
And we are... the Anidorks.
I really wanted to go second
better
that
every
time.
Yes, I felt that.
These may be kids' books, but we discuss dark themes and mature content. There may also be some explicit language. Listener discretion is advised.
Guys, we made it. Here we are, chapter 9. We've all had a couple chapter 9s in our lives, you know. I know to the listeners this will be irritating because I'm doubling back, but how about that one-off character that we'll probably never hear from again?
Eileen, I love you, Eileen. And and the Dolphins named after the Friends characters.
Right.
Oh my God!
Which will come up a lot in the last half of this book. Because a lot depends on
it's basically the whole back half of the book is a Friends plot.
Yeah.
Cassie is back to having her what she believes to be Andalite message dreams of someone calling for help from her under the sea. Only this time she also dreams of specifically the dolphin Monica, who I believe is the dolphin she asked for consent.
I just can't get over the Friends name.
Yeah. Which, to be clear, I think this is the last time Monica gets mentioned. So.
Gets name dropped like that.
What are you saying? You built it up so much. Well, so now we know Cassie's a Monica.
Cassie's a Monica. I don't know anything about Friends.
I don't either.
So there's a whole thing where they like talking about where should we go.
When they're discussing it, they discuss it super shady on the phone.
Yes.
They're like so paranoid. They're like,
because phone lines could be tapped.
Yeah. And I'm like, I'm
thinking
proud of
maybe
them.
I don't want to go to the beach today, you know?
Yeah, maybe it'll be like really crowded, Jake said. And he just sounds like he's worried his parent is on the other line and he's trying to like get high or something.
Like it sounds like he's trying to buy drugs. Like, you know, maybe we won't play in the park today. Maybe we'll play down by the movie theater. Like,
it's just always funny to me to imagine that the Yeerks actually have. So we know Tom, Jake's brother, has a Yeerk in his head. He's a controller. He's a human controller.
He's been Yeerked.
He's been Yeerked. He's a high schooler. And the idea that the Yeerks, who are planning a global invasion, might have said, Tom, you have to tap your middle school brother's phone line to find out what if they're wrong and he's just a middle schooler and they...
I mean, is it that much crazier than the fact that they were just shooting whole ass guns at these children?
Yes. Yeah, like Jesus Christ. Yeah, no, the attention paid to children in this book is otherworldly.
Children are the future.
They are the future. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, they have this whole complicated... They talk about the beach, but the beach doesn't matter. They're going to a river because there will be less people there. Mm-hmm. And they're going to turn into dolphins to swim out into, because the river empties out into the ocean. And then they'll swim to find this Andalite, right?
Yes.
Right. That's the plan.
That's the whole plan.
That's the whole plan.
And they don't even know where he is right now. They're just looking. They're just...
It's a scouting mission.
The recon, right. And there's a really cute scene where it turns out that, Tobias shows up and he says a really corny joke. Like, they're like, what's up, Tobias? And he's like, same old thing, you know, it's a hockey mouse world out there, which I would like to say is punching down. Because mice are just like, the Hawks are winning. And I think that's
He's not lying.
It's true.
He's just telling it like it is.
Yeah,
you just don't want to hear the hard truth.
Oh, come on. Don't be that way, Miranda. Don't be that way.
One of my favorite things that happens in this book is in this scene as well, and that is that Rachel has put a watch on Tobias.
So cute. So cute. So cute. So cute. And just now I'm going to be checking every bird I see for a Timex. Like, it is 100% like what I'm looking for.
I also, when Cassie points out, so when Tobias makes this joke, Hawk Eat Mouse World, Cassie really reads into what Tobias says. So he makes that stupid joke and she says, I laughed, pleased to hear that Tobias was learning to be at peace with the fact that, at least for a while, he was as much a hawk as he was a boy. Which I don't know that was all
in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I have a note on that, and all I said was lol. No, I must be looking at Eddie's notes.
No, yours just says lol.
Chris is between books right now.
I'm so like, we started all keeping notes in another copy of the book, and so like tonight I'm like between books. I'm gonna be flipping back and forth a lot.
Oh anyway. Man, no, here's a good note because this is from our original shared one. Tobias is like, no, I thought it all out. It's fine for me to wear this watch because people won't be able to see me over the water, and get concerned about why there would be like a hawk wearing a watch. And Chris has a note that says, she's right. They could be putting watches on lots of birds to cover their tracks.
Which, by the way, is a reference to something you said, Miranda, about dressing up squirrels. I was very into this idea that I would like capture a certain amount of squirrels and put pants on them and then release them and then periodically capture more squirrels and put more pants on them to try to convince people that squirrels were making pants.
In wherever we live that we won't mention.
Yes.
We can't tell you where we live.
Yeah.
But if you start seeing news articles about squirrels wearing pants, you may be able to infer where we live.
Yes.
I think we brought that upon ourselves. Is the idea that they're going to turn into dolphins in this creek and then swim out to the bay and then the ocean?
Yeah. So Cassie starts crunching her bones. Sorry, Miranda, go ahead.
Yeah, no. That's where I was going.
That's where Miranda was going. We all want to talk about the bone crunch.
All ready for the bone crunch.
That odd, familiar crunching.
Yeah.
The one that happens when your bones are stretched or compressed.
She has a little fear this time because, like we said before, Cassie is worried that dolphins may be too smart and that she may find a fully formed person inside this morph, essentially. She chooses during this morph to hang on to her legs as long as she can, which I thought was kind of odd because, like, dolphins are really heavy. So,
you want to build up anticipation for the all fours moment. So that's K.A. Applegate has figured out if they keep their legs at some point.
She knows this down to the moment. She knows this beat by beat how to get. My other least favorite part of this morph is like just the continual like shaming aspect of it. Like Marco just like, she starts transitioning and morphing and she's like, your bones get stretched and crunched and like her eyes are like bulging out and like blah blah blah, and Marco just cuts in with the most useless. They've been doing this for months.
He specifically
has been doing this for months, and he says, oh man, that's definitely not attractive. Like, not a good look for you, Cassie. Like, Jesus shit,
Marco.
Asshole. Like,
what we've heard a couple times now about how morphing isn't pretty, and I feel like they're not commenting on Marco's morphs enough. Like, maybe we'll get that in book 5.
I want to hear how ugly he looks when he's morphing.
Tell me about that gorilla morph. We should be making jokes that he's not morphing that much, to shame him. I didn't know that he actually has to grow in height.
I'm looking at my notes about the surrendering of her human legs.
Because it's just like go in the water. You can start in the water.
I'm just going to read this whole thing. It was time to let the rest of the morph proceed.
Gravity.
I surrendered my human legs. Instantly, I fell face forward into the water. There we go. We have it. The all fours dolphin moment.
I looked down and saw my tail. I was complete. Like, it makes me feel like there's a progress bar. Like, it's a foreign body, so how would you know once you were done? I wonder if
it is the opposite of dysmorphia, though. It's like I like it. I got a tail. I feel great about this. This feels like me. Yeah.
Cassie is like after all of these other morphs they've done where their human mind had to share space with the animal mind and it was overwhelming or frightening or made them eat
Especially
spiders.
when they were like prey. Yeah.
Yeah. But what they find here is that they just want to play.
Which kind of just makes me really happy.
Yeah.
I don't know why. This book made me happier than any other Animorphs book.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of time given for, and like books that have been really dark, and already in the first 4 books, there's a lot of space given to joy in this one. And
yeah, exactly. Play. And I feel like it's like they've been so trapped in these horrible emotions, in these horrible situations. And just like this moment, because it's written after they morph, this is from the book, it's like there was no fear, none. And just that feeling feels really relatable to me right now. I don't know. I found that it hit me really hard this time through.
Yeah, like Tobias asking after the morph, because, in all these morphs, they've been difficult and scary and whatever. And Tobias is like, Cassie, are you okay? And she's like, I'm happy.
She sounds like a 30-year-old.
I was like, I'm happy. What?
Who'd have thought?
Yeah. And what's funny is the thing that I keep thinking as we're talking about this is that it's a moment when they get to just be kids, which isn't true because they're not kids, they're dolphins. But it's like that's how they get to be kids in this book.
Yeah,
is by
that's
being dolphins.
Really well put.
I wish Tobias got to join in. Tobias is kind of like he's permanently he's above and off screen in this book, I feel like.
Yeah, he's removed.
He's an outside observer.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, like, oh man, what a chapter. Just the joy as they're swimming out into the ocean. Yeah.
As they're playing as dolphins is just like really wonderful.
Are you on to chapter 10? Did you just jump in? Okay, cool.
Tobias tries to remind them that they are on a time limit, and the only way they seem capable of remembering that they need to be like going after their goal is by making a game of it. Like, that's what everything is to dolphins, they say, is like some version of a game.
The thing I wanted to say about the Tobias thing was, like, first of all, chill out, bird dad. Like, worst case scenario, they just like,
minutes.
Yeah, come on, it's been 45 minutes already. And it's like, just calm down already.
Do you think that was the first time he said it? Do you think he just hung out for 45 minutes?
It's the first time they noticed. That's
that's true. Yeah.
I had trouble at this part of the book because I did not understand the concern, because in the last book, they literally fucking morphed while they were falling into water, and they turned into a bird before hitting the water or the ground and flew away. So, like, I kind of thought this time pressure thing, like, it's like they're in the water. Like, the worst case scenario is that they surface, right?
Well,
so,
Marco
like,
can't swim. And
but
if they get too far out, like, swimming in the ocean is a really dangerous thing to do.
I agree.
That far out.
I don't know. I guess
I was confused by that too. And I feel like the book just kind of, the way it deals with that is by not addressing it. And there is a moment where this becomes more relevant coming up.
So, like, the echolocation thing was so fucking cool. That was, like, amazing. Miranda, you were just starting to talk about that. I'm sorry.
Just the universe of information that she, gets access to, and, like, the idea
I love that line
of processing it, like seeing it but not seeing it, or hearing it but not. Like, it's they do a lot of interesting things in how they try to communicate the feeling of being able to echolocate. That is a lot of fun.
I sort of felt the echoes as they come back to me.
Yeah.
Is what Cassie says. I sort of felt the sounds as they came back to me, like scattered echoes.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Really freaking cool. I really like the moment that happens at the bottom where they discover a shark. Like,
and they're excited about it.
Yeah, and then like they throw in this detail, like as if I had just won a contest. It's like, what do I win? A brand new shark. It's just so silly. It's it literally says I cried as if I had won a contest.
Yeah. Well, they don't just get sharks. There's something bigger that comes through too, and this is maybe my favorite thing in this. One of my favorite. There's a couple things of it. Cassie just immediately identifies it as a great one. And we learn that there's a whale, but only Cassie's calling it the Great One or a Great One.
Well, no,
Yeah,
Marco
she jumps
Marco
into it.
snaps right to it too. He says, "There's a Great One," and Tobias is confused, and she's like, "I mean, a whale," and she says that it's being attacked, and Marco says, "A Great One being attacked?"
True.
And he
Yes,
sounds
yes.
upset. So
Yeah,
like,
which is interesting because later in the book, Marco says specifically a whale after Cassie says a great one, which, like, to me doesn't make any sense. It's just
well,
like a
to me,
nitpick.
this is just indicating that in the moment, he's more in, like, the Dolphin's brain is more in control
Oh,
here.
yeah, you're
Yeah.
totally right. Like, yeah, he's not driving the ship as strong as he is later. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
but they're also getting a vibe that, like, this great one and these sharks that they've detected, like, the sharks are swarming
Yeah.
the great
Yeah.
one.
I want to add to the thing that Miranda said. So there's something interesting. A Great One being attacked, Marco asked, and the feeling comes through more strongly to him than like the logic or the sense of it. It says he sounded upset. It was strange because we were all upset more than we should have been. So even if they're like with the language of like a Great One, it's like the feeling they don't want this thing that they're calling a Great One to be attacked.
Yeah.
And they're all worried. They're all like, there's already a relationship there with this thing where they're protective of it. There's a part where Rachel, the moment they see the Great One, Rachel says, "You guys do what you want. I'm going in." And Tobias says, "Oh, there's a big
Typical
surprise."
Rachel. Just, yeah, like,
But then-
typical, yeah.
Oh, there's a big surprise, Tobias said with weary affection. And I felt like that was a typical, of course Tobias has weary affection. I wouldn't expect Tobias
Any
to
other
have
kind
any
of
other kind,
affection.
yeah.
Yeah.
To love is to be hurt, Tobias writes in his journal.
We get a whoomp sound here when Cassie attacks. So they go after the
It's
sharks.
like a freaking Batman scene. Like,
Yeah,
We'll get
I
a
see,
like the
whoomp,
old
whoomp,
Batman
whoomp
show, like,
later.
blah, blah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
We see 5 sharks attacking a humpback whale, and Cassie just rams her face into a tiger shark's gills, which she describes as not very pleasant for her.
It sounds painful. Yeah, because they're all like hard cartilage.
But she does draw blood. It's bleeding now.
She's a fighter in this book. Like the book
really
doesn't
is.
frame her that way, but because we're in her perspective, we get her attacking things over and over again, I feel like.
Yeah, and they're beating up on the shark, and like she's talking about like the competition between the dolphins and the shark, and it's like they were as fast as we are, as maneuverable as we are, and the sharks had one terrifying advantage: they did not know fear. This upset the crap out of me. I don't know why. It's just that whole like reptile brain is bad. Like evil is reptile brain.
Yeah.
Sharks are reptile brain. And
Yeah.
it's like you don't experience their fear, but like actually like reptile brain probably has fear. Like it's probably one of the few things it does
Yeah.
have.
Yeah, that's
Like,
true.
and yeah, they are killing machines, but did we not just like meet and empathize with the Hork-Bajir like 3
Yeah.
fucking books ago? Like it's just like
But the
yeah.
Hork-Bajir are still, even if they don't act like killing machines naturally, they've been turned into killing machines, and they're pointy, just like the Yerk ship, and that is bad. Like, I feel like...
Pointy is
the
bad.
books-
Pointy
yeah,
is bad. We all agree that Pointy is bad.
And
I'm
sharks
not
have
saying
very
that.
pointy teeth.
Yes, they have pointy teeth, but I think like
I
it's
agree
hard to
with
blame
you.
a shark for being a shark.
I don't feel like we're in the
I'm
same
a
place.
shark.
We were kids in the 90s, so I feel like we all got this edge. Like dolphins were considered like the most angelic creatures. I feel like when we were growing up, that's what we
Yeah,
learned
it's
in
true.
school.
Flipped on its
We
head.
did not know
Yeah,
about their
yeah.
capacity for evil.
Yes, and I
I
feel
think
like
I
these
do.
books
I think
don't
I do
know.
have a note actually at the beginning of this chapter. Yeah, dolphins don't attack sharks unless the sharks attack first. I think this is my note, and it just says that's probably not true.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, I see that one. Yeah,
Well, it turns out that like dolphins have learned. There's this weird fact about sharks that if you flip them over,
flip them upside down.
They, like,
That's right. They go unconscious.
turn off.
really?
Yes, and dolphins and orcas have both been found like to flip sharks over on purpose just for fun, like and like hold them there until they die.
Sounds pretty freaking mean to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, freaking high horse dolphins.
I just wanted to say there is a moment where Cassie also says, "It suddenly occurred to me that we might lose, we might be killed, I might be killed," and I feel like that's an important it happens right after this really
is
joyful
a-
moment.
Yeah,
And I
Yeah.
feel
it's
like
a critical literary beat.
that's
yeah.
that realization that they might be killed. Although I think it's been there every book, it feels important to this book that that's like something happening in the background of their. They get shot at in this book.
And when juxtaposed with what they were just feeling, like that invincible feeling that they just had, the fight ends up with the sharks turning on the injured shark and deciding to eat him instead. And then they decide...
It's a shark world out there, to quote Tobias.
It's a hockey shark world out there. Then we're doing a check-in with everybody, and everybody seems fine.
Oh my God, that's the funniest fucking way to put this.
And they're like, oh, wow, the fight only actually lasted like 2 minutes. Wow, that's wild. Well, at least everybody's okay. Marco?
Marco?
And Marco says, I think I'm hurt.
I wrote for this, Marco's dead, lol.
Marco's tail is like dangling by dolphin threads.
It's bad. It is really bad.
Not good. He is bleeding everywhere.
It's making a horrible mess.
And they all turn to Cassie like she's going to be able to do something as a dolphin. She is also a dolphin. And she feels really bad. And Marco, just in typical Marco fashion, continues to crack jokes while he bleeds to death.
It's so good. Yeah, she's like literally like, we're miles out to sea. Like, I'm watching my friend die.
Marco says, oh man, that's a major ouchie. And then goes back to screaming in pain.
And then says some really... So not only jokes, because Marco says, oh man, I don't want to die as some fish. Marco cried. I don't want to die out here. My mom drowned. And I feel like the reader, as long with all of the friends, are like, oh, that's true.
Big frowny face. I just have like a frowny face with like 4 parentheses.
My mom drowned. I'm going to die just like she did. And then it just says, my dad. ...
Oh my God.
And then they remember that, when Jake morphed back from being a lizard, he hadn't lost anything, and you could morph an injured wolf and it would be fine. So they're like, Marco just has to morph back to human and it'll be fine. We've really seen this before, and yet they're all still like, what if you're wrong? And then he bleeds to death anyway. Like, there's not a lot
it's like, it'll make one hell of a story. He may as well try.
And then Marco's like, I can't swim. And we're like, we'll hold you up, buddy.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, we'll just hold you, bud. Like, you can't not bleed to death right now either. So you need to make a choice.
Yeah, because in the 90s, there were so many movies about kids hanging out. Well, there's not Free Willy. What's the one with the...
Jaws?
The dolphin where they hang
Flipper.
out. Flipper. There was Flipper. You know the dolphin can support you. There was Zeus and Roxanne with the little dog that rode on the dolphin. Okay, well, I saw Zeus and Roxanne.
I have no idea what that is.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, well, I watched that movie many times, and the dog stayed afloat.
I was here to yes and you, dude.
It was a direct to VHS that only my grandma had. It may have been her personal
and it's a classic.
If I'm correct in remembering, she drew it herself.
When Marco decides he'll morph back, he says, might as well die in my own body. Maybe it won't hurt as much. And that's like the saddest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, And he does it, and now he's complaining that he switches back to human, and he does the morph, and now he's like, oh, guys, I have a new problem. I'm drowning. It's like, ha ha ha, Marco, so funny.
Classic Marco.
Yeah, classic Marco. And then this is like, I have to touch this because like I have to hit this moment. I have to touch upon this moment. There we go. That's what we'll go in the edit. I have to touch this. Like, at the moment when he's probably about to die, Rachel yells, look out, a whale. Like, something's swelling up out of the water out from beneath them. And like, I just love this narration. Like, but at that moment, the most incredible part of an incredible day happened. And I'm just like, best summer ever, you guys. A freaking whale came up and saved Marco's
You gotta keep reading, though.
Yeah, my mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Human, dolphin, both minds opened up like a flower opening to the sun. Ugh,
so God is here.
God.
Yeah, no.
God in the form of whale. That's a Survivor
Shelter
reference.
in the form of tarp.
Fire in the form of flint.
And Cassie seems to be consistently the only one tapped in on this cosmic wavelength. And she says, it's okay. Back away, I told Rachel and Jake. It's okay.
Yeah. Can I read this part real quick? Because this part, actually, I got way too emotional during. It's right after the last part. It's, and a silent but somehow huge voice filled my head. It spoke no words. It simply filled every corner of my mind with one simple emotion. Gratitude. And I just, I lost
Gratitude.
So the whale talks. Listen, little one. Really, the whale seems to have fully bought into the whole Great One thing. If
Yeah,
the
no,
whale is
they
calling
took
them
that name
little
and
ones.
ran with it for sure.
I'm now very suspicious. Ever since Prince Elfangor, seemingly, as Miranda pointed out,
Groomed.
groomed, set the vibes without it telling
anytime
anyone.
you can set the vibes via telepathy, it's
Yeah.
The ethics are real.
It's not a good feel.
And especially in a book that hits on, book 2 hit on consent, but this book talks about
Oh my God,
consent.
we get so much consent shit in this
Yeah.
book throughout. Yeah.
But I love what they get. Cassie, again, taps into that cosmic level of things, and suddenly she knows that this whale has lived 80 migrations. He had many mates, many mothers who had died in their turn. His children traveled the oceans of the world. We get a bunch here, and she gets this entire...
it's beautiful. All while Marco's just sitting like a tiny little human on its back. It's so cute.
And I feel like, we'll come back to this, but I feel like there's an extra layer of perspective happening in this book. I feel like this is the book where we also learn that Cassie's family's farm has been in the family for generations. There's a lot of talk about grandparents in this book, and we get this whale who's very old and has seen all of these different things that...
True. This is our meeting the wise guy.
Yes, yeah.
You're right.
And what we'll get later, there's a moment later where I feel like that's put in contrast with something else. Yeah, so we'll put a pin in this for now.
Put a pin in that. Remember this whale convo.
Yeah. Which I wonder if this is going to happen again in the books, because this is weird. This is maybe one of the weirder moments we've had in 4 books, right?
Beautiful. It is
it
one of
is
the weirdest.
beautiful.
It is strange.
It is so beautiful, and it's weirdly beautiful, and it's weird unto itself. They reveal to the whale that they're not actually little ones or dolphins, as it were, and the whale already knows you're something new in the sea, and then the whale's like, but not the only new thing, which is exactly why we're here in the first place. So it's just a big, beautiful da-da-da. And I just, they keep talking about how this communication's going down, and Cassie's just it's the poetry of emotion without words. It's come on, this is I don't know, this chapter elevates the entire first 4 books. It just shoots for the moon and gets there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very emotional, it's very beautiful and very well written, and not what you necessarily expected, even having read the first 3 books when you picked up this book.
And then something really beautiful happens, which is a similar telepathic gesture to the Andalite happens with the whale, where when he says something new has appeared in the ocean, he can't describe it, so he's merely going to show it. He showed me a picture, a memory. It was a broad grassy plain with trees and a small stream, all of it underwater. And across the grass ran an animal that was part deer, part scorpion, part almost human. And the funniest thing about this is when I read this the first time, younger Chris said, underwater base, what the fuck? New Chris wrote, shut the fuck up, Chris, don't ruin this.
Can confirm that is what the note says.
Chris did a lot of growing up in the last few
I did.
years.
I really did a lot of growing up this past 2 years, for sure.
You love parks so much more now.
And then frickin' Bird Dad comes back in and is like, you guys are talking to whales, you need to be saving the world.
Don't
Fucking A,
comfort
man.
Tobias like this.
Yeah.
Tobias isn't experiencing everything.
And
they're
Tobias
experiencing.
is the one who acutely
fair.
knows how important it is for them to morph back.
Do they all refresh their morph?
No,
No.
just Marco.
No, and this
my
is what I don't
God.
get. It's
Oh my
like the rest of you
God.
can swim. They just needed to hold on to that tension for the rest of the chapter. They needed the stakes to be at a certain level, I feel like, so they just all
Yeah.
stay in more.
Because otherwise they'd have gone straight there or something.
I also
'Cause, yeah.
I love Marco at this moment as we close out this chapter. As they're leaving, they hear the whale singing slow, mournful, haunting notes. And Jake wonders, why didn't he sing more when we were with him? And Cassie's response, I found this very frustrating. She smiles inwardly. And of course, since I was a dolphin at the moment, I smiled outwardly too. And then she says, he doesn't sing for the little ones, I explained. He sings for the mothers. And Marco goes,
Don't we all?
what?
Don't we all? And Marco like comes in and says like, cruising for chicks.
Oh, yeah. Well, then he ruins it. Yeah.
I wonder if the big old guy even realizes that he helped save my life. Rude, Marco. Fucking rude. But he's also keeping it real.
But Cassie's just fully gone into like the wise one mode. And it's,
Yeah, no, for sure. She's like, he knows things we'll never understand.
Yeah.
So off screen, they go back, they morph back, they do whatever,
now we're
I
in
guess.
chapter 13, the unluckiest of chapters.
And Cassie goes to see Marco at his apartment complex.
This chapter also blew my mind.
This chapter?
Can we take a pee break? Chapter 13. Here we go. I made everybody wait for me to pee. This chapter blew my little mind as I raised my truly to the sky.
Yeah, so we get to see Marco's apartment where he lives with his dad. And I don't love this for Marco, but I love it as like a storytelling thing that like we're not allowed in. Like Marco, which I think I missed when I read this before. I thought they went to a porch in the apartment, but somehow I missed that reading this time that like Marco doesn't let Cassie into.
Yes.
We just see Marco's dad on the couch, right? In a bathrobe.
Yeah, she sees him through the door,
that's
and we
right.
hear Marco tell him to put his bathrobe on when there's someone at the door. And Marco,
Yeah.
this scene broke my heart.
And it really did. I mean, like, Cassie's really going through it too, because she, like, just needs to talk to him about the close call from yesterday, but Marco is not ready to share this part of his life. She's giving us, like, ample context for the fact that, like, they used to live in a house like Jake and Rachel, but when his mom died and his dad had his breakdown, like, and quit his job, they had to move here. And it's just really, it's so heartbreaking. This whole chapter was really heartbreaking. And also, did you guys have this feeling? We've been talking about this a lot from the beginning of the book, but like when she is describing certain things that have never existed, like her descriptions of monsters are very disorienting. But her description of this apartment complex, like, was weirdly vivid.
Yeah.
It was like, it was almost like she knew what she was looking at when she wrote it, and that just really came through.
Yeah, without feeling overly detailed. Like, it wasn't, like, insanely detailed in the writing, but it was very evocatively written. Like, I feel like I've been to this apartment complex.
He's like, you can't come in, so they're going to talk outside, and he stepped outside onto the concrete breezeway. Down below us was a swimming pool. It was drained and closed. Leaves at the bottom. Leaves covered the bottom. Like, just like images like that, I don't know, like really landed.
And it set the tone really, really nicely for the scene.
Yeah.
Well, it just makes you also, like, talking about it right now, it makes you think about how much work Marco's doing at all times. Because he's kind of parenting his dad. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he's still doing his own work of, like, grieving his mom who died.
Totally.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also the one who keeps things somewhat light for the group, which also is, like, partially that's him having a wall up, which I feel like we get that he doesn't even let them into an apartment.
Yeah.
But also, he's really scared. He's made that more clear maybe than anyone, but he's also trying to keep things really light for the group.
Something that really stands out, too, is, like, that when she initially arrives, he's very reluctant to even engage with her, like not even just let her in, but he's like, look, I'm spending the day with my dad today, you know, and he is still devoted to the idea that he will do something with his dad and get this quality time with his dad. And he's like trying to like deliver that for his dad, which is like extra heartbreaking. Like the fact that his dad is totally locked on the TV. It's just, it's very, very, very sad.
Yeah. And I couldn't tell if that was like the thing that they were planning to do together was maybe to watch something. Because he makes a reference to watching an old movie. He references Hunt for Red October later.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, is that something he watched with his dad?
Maybe.
Or is he planning to do something with his dad?
I wonder if that's part of why he's so TV aware.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Oh my God, like he makes a bajillion references because his dad's always watching TV and that's the only thing they do together. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So then we get to the
just got heavy,
it's
guys.
really,
I'm so
really
sorry.
sad. We get to the point of why Cassie came here, which is also really sad and heavy.
Yeah,
and
this chapter's as uplifting as the whale chapter, as the great one chapter was. This one is just a drained swimming pool. Like that's what this is.
Yeah.
And she says, she feels really bad about everything that's happened and that it feels different this time because it was her idea and her plan. And Marco really takes her to task about, like, you don't like responsibility, you don't understand the situation at all, like, none of us want to get killed. We're all doing this for a reason, basically is what he's saying. And you don't get to decide whether or not a risk someone's taking is worthwhile. Like,
yeah. How is he so mature?
I don't
like
know.
How is he like called
Well, he has
into,
to be.
He has to be, but at the same time, it's like it was his life, dude. Like he was probably feeling actual pain. And like his tail was ripped off. And like I really admire Marco's character more than almost any other character in this book, just by virtue of, like, I feel like he understands the risks better than anybody, which is obvious. I'm saying an obvious thing, but it just hits so effing hard when time and time again he's comforting other people.
Yeah.
Like,
I was just going to say, after Cassie's whole thing about, like, even when she works in the barn with her dad, and sometimes they have to put animals down even, or just see them die of sickness, he's the vet, he's making the decision, she's just the assistant. And Marco says, look, here I am, all alive, Marco said, tapping his chest. Get over it. I didn't have to go. It was my choice. And just like, he's admonishing her and absolving her of guilt, all sort of in the same, well, trying to absolve her of guilt. He's like, you need to take responsibility for what you did do and stop feeling the guilt for things you didn't do. Like, own your decisions, but don't act like every negative consequence that happens is because you were at the helm.
the choice may have been mistaken, but the choosing
was not.
It's a Sondheim reference.
I should just always assume.
Sorry, grateful callback.
You can see where you're going. You've gone.
So I feel like Marco has moved since book one. Even though we haven't had, he's the only one whose perspective we haven't had yet. I don't feel like he's in the same place that we started with.
You mean moved character development?
Yeah. I don't feel
Not like they just moved to the apartment.
sorry, yes. In book 1 and 2, I feel like Marco was just like, I want out. And now I feel like we're hearing a different Marco.
It is also really telling that in this book we get an absolute confirmation of Marco's experience of Tobias. We know from previous books that Tobias feels that Marco feels he's a representation of one of the worst case scenarios, but we get it from the goat's mouth. We get it from Marco's mouth. That every time he sees Tobias, he struggles.
Yeah.
There's one beat of this conversation, which is like they start laughing because Marco brings up that like they're fighting Hork-Bajir and Taxons in Visser 3, but they also just might get killed by sharks. And the fact that that it might be something that there's actually that on top of the new threats of like this cosmic, like intergalactic space battle.
Right.
There's also
you
just
could be
like
killed by something as pedestrian.
Yeah, the same things that could have killed them before could kill them now. And then there's a plot beat that Marco just gets there quickly at the end of the chapter. That the basically
here comes some exposition. Here we go.
That human controllers are out looking for the same thing they're looking for.
Whatever this thing is, they think it's an Andalite ship. There is evidence of some very strange, sudden activity in the ocean near where they live and where they think it is. The people are suddenly very interested. She's like, controllers? He's like, yeah, probably. Yeah. Marco does talk about feeling like, they need to take care of their own families and themselves. But he says, after what the Andalite did for us, I wouldn't feel like much of a human being if I didn't try to save whoever is out there. And then, when Cassie responds with saying, but she doesn't know how she can deal with making those kinds of decisions again, all based on her dreams, Marco says, but can you decide to do nothing? And that's like...
That is an amazing moment.
Well, that's when she tells him, you know, for a guy who's always joking around, you're awfully smart. And he says, I know, but don't tell anyone and ruin my image.
I feel like Marco's been that person in the first couple books that was kind of like, maybe we just do nothing. And I feel like Marco's now voicing from that place. Like, I feel like I feel like he was the one saying, like, maybe we don't have to do anything. Maybe we just go and be with our families.
Maybe this will all take care of itself.
And now I think he's speaking from that place of having, like, he's shifted in terms of how he feels about that.
I've loved every one of these books, but I'm not going to lie, the despair of Animorphs 3 got to me. I do not feel like there was a way out of that book. I feel like I merely endured, and Animorphs 4 like feels different.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why you're kind of in the fuck Tobias stance right now. Like,
that is why, actually. You're right. And I mean, I shouldn't be, because Tobias is, and I don't mean to actually be. I'm not actually fuck Tobias. I'm just like... Moving
on to someone who actually is all like fuck Tobias. We're at Rachel's house again.
Yeah.
You gotta warn me before you pull it.
And she likes him better as a bird. Yeah, they pivot right back to, after that chapter, that intense chapter, they're like, okay, we gotta go find that Andalite. Marco's back to making jokes.
Monster of the week. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, we gotta be light about it. Yeah.
And Marco so they're talking about, they kind of do a recap. They believe that somehow a surviving Andalite, or more than one Andalite, is trapped out in the ocean. Cassie believes she can find this Andalite thanks to information from the whale. And then Marco stops it and says, information from a whale. And Tobias says, this all got really weird. And Marco says, weird? The talking bird wants to know if getting information on the location of an alien from a whale that you've just saved from sharks by turning into dolphins. You're suggesting that's weird? And it's like a really good moment in this.
It is. Good. As much as it feels like on the nose to say it, it needed to be said.
Yeah.
It's just, there's been so much pressure mounting, and we're about to go into the next section, and just like they're all just giggle ready.
Oh, yeah. And then we move right on to the plan, and Rachel launches into it, and Marco interrupts her with, I hate plans that begin with the words, first we morph.
Yeah.
Every plan so far, mind.
Their plan is to morph into seagulls, to land on a ship that will travel out into the ocean. And then, do they get past that? They morph into dolphins again,
and then they'll morph into dolphins, and they'll find it.
And they'll look around
there.
a little bit. Yeah.
And they'll find it. And that's where it gets really vague. Like,
it gets super vague. And I think they just need Eddie there to ask them questions. They need you, Eddie.
Yeah,
they need you to be like, okay, so I heard you trail off and your voice got quiet at the end when you said the words and go the rest of the way. Like, I just feel like I feel like you need to share with the audience what you're planning to do there.
Yeah. So Jake says, and this feels like part 2 of like a 3-part thought. Jake says, it is dangerous and risky, and there are about 100 things that could go wrong. Plus, the controllers might be out there looking for us. And then they just put it to a vote. They never say, you're right, we should try to like pin another step of this down. They just go. They just leave for...
Yeah, pencils down.
And immediately, almost before it's out of his mouth, Marco's like, I'm in. Yeah, let's do it. Marco's been shitting on this plan from minute 1. He's just like, let's do it.
He's in. Yeah. He beat Rachel to it.
He's very pleased.
Rachel says, I'm in just after. And everyone looks and is utterly gobsmacked.
And then he says, I just wanted to.
And that's where the book ends.
Yeah.
You really need a gobsmacker to end your books.
Forget cliffhangers.
We need gobsmackers.
Move to gobsmackers. Yeah.
I don't know why this moment was in here. So Jake and Cassie leave and they walk off from Rachel's house together. Cassie says, I think Tobias is feeling kind of left out. You should talk to him later, remind him of how many times he's helped us out. Jake says that's a good idea. Tobias is basically gone the rest of the book after that. I'm assuming that Jake has that conversation with Tobias, but we don't hear about it. Tobias I really don't think he gets like more than 2 or 3 lines.
He's really not a big presence in this book for
he's
sure. And even
barely
when he
there.
is, like just a moment ago, they ask him about the vote and he's like, well, I'm not going to be able to do it. So I don't know if I should really get to vote. But I think the dreams are real.
Well, he gets actually a good moment here at the end of the chapter. As they're walking off, they're talking about the fact that, like, Cassie says, look,
This
don't
is
get hurt.
Jake and Cassie?
Yeah.
Jake and Cassie. Cassie says, look, don't get hurt. He smiled that smile. Me, I'm indestructible. She glances up at the sky. Against the blaze of sunset, I saw a flash of russet tail feathers. Tobias, our friend, who had been trapped forever in a body not his own. None of us was indestructible.
Yeah, not with that attitude.
Hey, half a sandwich. It's salami.
All right. So, this transition makes about as much sense in the book as it does in this podcast because we start off in the middle of a thought. In the middle of a thought speak, actually. In my copy of the book, it's missing the opening carrot, but the opening
Mine as well, yeah.
bracket.
Because everyone is seagulls. They're seagulls.
Yeah, and they're having so much fun talking about food. They are very food obsessed in the beginning of this chapter. They finally did what we all were begging them to do and get more discreet bird morphs.
Yeah, I feel like seagulls could be fucking anywhere.
Yeah,
See,
you could have 50 of the same seagull and I would never figure it out.
No one would notice. And they could fly together all they want and no one would care. There could be seagulls in the movie theater, and I wouldn't think it was that weird.
I would be like, damn, they must have left the door open.
Yeah.
And apparently, the one thing they always have in supply at the wildlife rehabilitation clinic, they always have seagulls, which is very fortunate for that.
Let them die. No, I'm kidding.
Here we go. I want to introduce a new segment, okay? You ready?
Okay.
Thermal watch.
Yep.
Thermal watch.
Thermal watch? We gonna do it every time they talk about thermals?
Is this the first time in this book or is this the second time?
Is this the first time
This
they
is
brought
the first,
up
I
thermals?
think.
I think this is the first thermals.
We're all seagulls, and one of Cassie's animal facts that we're about to get is it's a lot harder to fly as a seagull than it is as a hawk.
That's true.
And it seems to be that there's no real thermals to surf on above the sea.
Which seems weird to me.
I agree. I feel like that can't be 100% true, categorically, but...
It's also because they're flying low, right? We flew low just a few dozen feet above the water, not like hawks who can ride the thermals up to the bellies of the clouds. So is it...
Oceans don't absorb and then put back out heat in the same way that like a black top does. So I guess it makes sense.
So they fly to the boat, which is headed to... It's a container ship called Newmar. It's from Monrovia.
Yeah.
We did
I don't know why I'm sharing that.
We did a little digging. Monrovia is in California.
K.A. Applegate uses the word superstructure, which, as Chris
blew my mind.
As Chris noted, wild word, K.A. To describe the ship. They basically just land between shipping containers, right? And we don't get much about this boat. It's like an in-between point as they head into the ocean. But Tobias leaves.
Yeah, Tobias leaves because he can't stay out over the water forever. There's a couple really funny moments to me.
There's so many cute moments in this.
She mentions settling down in, the space between the containers. She says that, and then when they morph back, she's like, the space between the rows of containers was even narrower when we were fully human again. No, it wasn't. You were just bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing is they morph back and they're all in their weird,
morphing outfits.
Yeah, they're in the morphing outfits. And
Marco takes this chance, like every other chance, to pitch uniforms.
What can we say our predictions for this? Will Marco just always bring this up and they'll never get uniforms? Will they get uniforms, or will Marco just drop this beat at some point?
I think he's gonna buy them uniforms. I'm gonna say it. He's gonna buy them uniforms and no one will wear them.
Because it's a terrible idea if they're trying to remain secretive. Also,
I think we're gonna get to a book and it's gonna be a Christmas special. And he's going to get them all uniforms, and they're going to throw them in the fire in front of him.
He also says, when winter comes, we are going to be some sad little Animorphs, and I want that spin-off series.
Oh, sad little Animorphs.
The sad
That's
little
going on a
Animorphs.
shirt.
It's like a one-off comic, a sad little Animorphs.
I identify as a sad little Animorph. 100%.
too.
I'm a sad little Animorph. Done.
Tobias had figured out how fast the ship was going.
Yeah.
So he gives
One
them
of
a
his
number.
many bird hobbies is to fly alongside cars and read the speedometer.
Yeah. They're saying they're heading more or less straight south and they're heading toward where they want to go. Then another moment happened that I thought was very interesting. They talk about it being nice to be able to be bored for a minute because they knew what they were going to have to do was hard. But the following line just struck me a certain way. And that line is, after a long time, Jake checked the watch. It's been an hour.
You're right. Holy shit. Holy shit. After an hour, Jake checked the watch and said,
It's been an hour. After an indeterminate amount of time, Jake specified how long it had been. Like,
Yeah.
now they have to figure out how they're actually gonna do this more.
So
Yeah,
Marco
so-
can't swim. That becomes relevant again. But their plan is to jump off the boat that they turned into seagulls to arrive at. So they've wasted an hour and they have to jump off the boat. They need to figure out how they're going to jump off the boat. I actually think they've improved on their planning.
From
but
last
they are
month?
not
Absolutely.
perfected the planning.
Yeah.
Yes, when they swam into an alien spaceship and then didn't have any plan after that.
And then went, hey, Tobias,
they were
Oh my
we
God, I'm
actually
still
can't
mad
get
about
out
that.
of this.
Yeah. Also, we don't know where to go, even if we managed to get past this stage of our thing. It's been months since we talked about that book, and I can feel the anger.
I can tell how angry you are because I can hear your knee bumping up against your desk right now.
I'm sorry.
It's so good. You're just like angrily just kicking your desk. Like, it's so good. They have to turn into dolphins and get in the water, but they're like, what, like hundreds of feet up from the water?
Which the rest of them are confident about doing.
They're
for some
all
reason.
like, but here's what blows my mind. They say, no big deal for a seagull or a dolphin, but a mighty long way for a human. And I'm just like, what the fuck are you talking about? When is a dolphin diving through the air hundreds of feet down? Like, it would probably just crush their little bottlenose. Like,
Yeah,
it would just,
I don't
It's
know.
like, what is the thing that they say? Like, jumping into water from like 100 feet is like jumping onto concrete.
Yeah, the
unless you're
surface
diving
tension
very
is roughly equal to
accurately.
concrete, yeah.
It's super dangerous what they're
It's
about
extremely
to do.
dangerous.
He morphs before.
Yes,
true.
and then
Then
they
he's
push
gonna
him
wait
And then they
off.
push him. Yeah,
time.
Jake's like,
Yeah.
And no one notices
just
on this
like-
boat.
Like, throw him. Yeah, Jake finds a blind spot big enough for 5 dolphins, apparently.
And then K.A. Applegate realizes that she's written herself into a bit of a bind. So she just has Cassie say, forget it. Let's just morph back to seagulls and fly back home. And luckily, Marco has had this very convenient character growth. And he's the one who says, insane. Hey, that's my word. Look, we came this far. And so Marco turns into a dolphin. They push the dolphin off the boat. Marco dies.
And he makes
He meets his sweet
and
maker.
he makes the stupid, like, the way they describe him smirking as his face morphs into a dolphin
Yeah.
is like this stupid freaking, like, early 2000s troll face. And I just
Oh,
can't.
yeah.
I can't live with it. It's like,
next
you
fucking
mad,
level.
bro?
Like, the
You
fact that
mad?
he's-
It's
Yeah,
also our
it's-
ultimate all fours. It's our best all fours movement so far. I just realized what Marco does. He is standing inexplicably
On 2 little
he was
human
growing
legs.
larger, straining his weak human legs, and then they push him.
They just shove him
Oh my god. They're
He
like, we
tumbled
better start
backwards.
pushing. Yeah.
backward,
backwards.
Backward.
In my imagination, he just like flops against the side of the boat on the way down.
Yeah. There's he could have laid down and they could have rolled him off. And then they all just jump off as humans. And Rachel says, yeehaw.
Yeah,
with a
Rachel
wild
dives,
grin.
which is really, like, don't recommend that
Not
if you
smart.
don't know what
Yeah,
you're doing. Go
always
feet first,
feet
please.
first into unknown waters. Yeah, come on. Yeah,
and then,
seriously. And then someone goes like, she's your cousin.
Cassie says
points
she's
out
your
to
cousin.
Jake.
And he says, don't remind me.
Which he makes a face like that. Oh my god, we sound fucking deranged. Let's go. Okay, so they dive
in the
off
water.
the side. They're in the Get these in the water.
I climbed over the railing and launched myself as far from the steel wall of the ship as I could.
Oh my god.
I like to think she started screaming before she did it. And then the next chapter starts
Just to
again
try and alert
with,
the people on the bridge. Yeah.
And then Paloosh.
Yeah, Paloosh, another great Batman word. Yeah. And they spend some time meditating on how convenient it is that they can morph after all. Like, they're like, out in the middle of the ocean, I wouldn't make it 1 hour. And I think it's hilarious that it's like, with my morph though, I could last twice that. It's just like,
so we get a really cinematic morph here, I feel like. This morph just like, I visualized it really nicely. Just like seeing the different people like, 5-6 feet under the water, like thrashing around as they change into dolphins. Like, I don't know.
yeah,
I just
the
feel
audio's all like muffled.
Yeah, like visually, I feel like there's a lot.
Peaceful.
Yeah, like a lot of things can be done with this scene, and I just like got really excited.
I can
about
see it in the edit.
what it
sure.
looked like.
And then they make the morph, and they're finally not freezing their little tails off, their figurative tails. Instead, they're warming themselves with their literal tails, and they do their obligatory post-morph check-in. Everyone okay?
Yeah.
And then the only reason I'm bringing this up, because I don't give a shit about this, but this is the vocab word of the chapter in terms of like later importance in my life. Marco goes, well, that was fun. Marco said sardonically.
Sardonically.
Yeah, let's never ever do that again. Which just, I can't think of an earlier source of that word for myself. Like,
it must have been the first time it's not clear to me in this entire section. Like, I feel like where they are in the ocean, it should be very, very deep. But this does not feel, and maybe that's because of the dolphin morph, but the water doesn't feel especially deep here from the way that they describe it.
Right, especially because like as they're looking around and Cassie is searching based on her like half remembered murky images she got from the whale, they see a helicopter. Oh no, I'm sorry. That's my bad though, because I'm just being silly. They surface to breathe, and that's when they see the helicopter.
Another weird choice. Like when they were picking dolphins, I remember feeling like this. Like it's a good pick in terms of distance coverage, but like if they have to go deep, like as Jeff Probst would say, if they have to dig deep, like I don't know. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you can get really deep, but I mean like I'm pretty sure the longest. Yeah, it's like what? The fact I'm remembering from like, like elementary science class is like 20 minutes?
Yeah, I think it's 20 minutes to half an hour, somewhere in there.
Yeah, that's like, and that's all based on how much they're exerting themselves.
Yeah.
So like,
Quick editor's note. I looked it up and dolphins can only hold their breath for 8 to 10 minutes.
Quick editor's note. Thanks for looking that up, Miranda. I don't know.
This is getting a bit ahead, but we know that wherever they end up, it's deep enough or shallow enough that when something moves across the surface, it casts a shadow on wherever they are.
Yeah, which is, it feels like the frickin' underwater base in The Spy Who Loved Me.
Cassie thinks she finds it, and she's like, get a big breath, everybody. We're going deep.
Yeah.
And down they go.
Wait, so this makes no sense because they do go, we dove and swam almost straight down. They go so deep away from the light. But when they reach their destination, they'll still get a shadow from the surface. So
well, like they're going away from the light, but that doesn't mean it's totally gone where they are.
True. Yeah.
I'm curious. I want to Google it. Okay, you ready? Sunlight entering the water may travel about 1,000 meters, so 1 kilometer, into the ocean under the right conditions. But there is rarely any significant light beyond 200 meters.
That's still pretty deep.
The ocean is divided into 3 zones based on depth and light level. The upper 200 meters of the ocean is called the euphotic, EUPHOTIC, or sunlight zone.
Is what I'd go with.
Euphotic, that makes more sense. Or sunlight zone. The zone between 200 meters and 1,000 meters is usually referred to as the twilight zone, but is officially the dysphotic zone.
Okay.
And then below that is the aphotic zone.
So no
which
light.
is the midnight zone.
Yeah, no light at all.
Yeah. Epic. I learned something today.
So down they swim, probably still within the euphotic zone.
In the twilight zone.
But perhaps in the dysphotic zone.
They are entering the
twilight zone. And right as they're struggling to breathe, they see this round dome.
It's it's like an inverted snow globe, right? It's like Sandy from SpongeBob.
Yeah, it's like Sandy's like place. I really love as round as a plate, as though plates were rounder than other round things. And I also
and then further specified a very large plate.
Yes. And then to top it off, from one side to the other, the diameter must have been half a mile. Thank you for explaining what diameter is before you tell me the diameter.
The radius is a quarter of a mile. So the circumference, which if it was half a mile, would be half of pi. So it's 1 point.
Wait, let's really think about this. So Chris point. No. I mean,
Chris point 2.
I thought you were mocking me.
Chris pointed out that sardonically was the vocabulary word.
This is the math
diameter.
moment.
I feel like I learned. I learned about diameter in high school.
Oh
Is
no!
that really?
Oh
Whoa,
no!
cool.
Diameter was easy.
We knew about it before,
grade.
but our dad's a math nerd.
No, diameter was easy 3rd grade challenge math.
So let's segue back in. So
right, we got to finish this up.
Discussed all of our mathematical trauma.
I think
and
this
aired
makes
all
it
of our mathematical laundry. Oh,
some
totally
of it does.
Makes
Some
it
of
in.
it does.
100%.
It's character building for us.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Everybody else is processing their math grief as well. So there's this underwater snow globe that's full of air and not snow. And we get a really wild description of what they see inside. Inside this plate covered in a beautiful glass dome or whatever
Andalites used for glass.
Whatever the Andalites use for glass. There was grass, more blue than green, but it looked like grass. There were trees like huge stems of broccoli, and other trees like orange and blue asparagus spears. At the center was a small lake, crystal clear blue water. From the water grew fantastic transparent green crystals in shapes like eccentric snowflakes. And as they're all taking this in and having their little minds blown, like Cassie is like, I saw it in the dreams, but like I didn't know I would be like, it's just blowing my mind right now. And Marco's like, hey, we're about to die. Let's go to the hatch quick.
Our lungs are
we're running
burning.
out of air.
So this description, I feel like the Andalites are supposed to be very strange, but also very familiar to us, right? Like that's what she's going, because I feel like isn't there a thing about kids drawing trees like broccoli or something?
Yeah, they do. They totally do. Or
Yeah.
if you dip your broccoli in ketchup, which sounds disgusting now, but like kids in kindergarten used to do that and say it was a forest fire.
Whoa.
Okay, maybe that was just kids that I went
Chris
to
and I are
kindergarten
both gonna
with.
do that.
Cool.
Yeah.
It is topical now. It wasn't then.
It was prophetic.
Yeah.
I feel like this goes back to the thing we talked about in the first episode, yes? Of the Andalites having the picture frames of nuclear families. Like the
Yes.
the
Yeah,
Andalites-
exactly. Right.
Yeah. They're blue centaurs, but and every other way. In terms of their personalities or their values or something, they are near identical to us.
Right. They're patriot-blooded Republicans.
Yeah.
At least as they've been presented so far. Oh, I want to say again, we have more round equals good. We were talking about the pointy equals bad, and we have another dome ship and a round lake and all these, and round is good.
Yeah, which, is a strong resonance to the point with Oblio and... Yeah,
so they're going into this hatch, which is pretty clearly like an airlock. And first of all,
or is it a water lock? No, it's an airlock.
Being able to as we'll see, they're able to breathe in here, luckily. Seems
They
pretty
get in, they seal it, and the
odd.
water starts draining in.
Yeah, it seems pretty odd that they'd be able to breathe in this place, but whatever. Aliens, whatever.
Oh, you mean
running it
like
off.
because Andalites breathe air, apparently?
Yeah, but Andalites could breathe here, so I guess it makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
the other
In the
thing
first
is-
book, the Andalite wasn't having trouble breathing.
Why did this ship need an airlock? Like, he ends up saying, as we'll see, that it's connected to the rest of the ship. But why did it have an airlock?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because this is sort of the housing quarters, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, this is just where they live. Nobody should be going on a spacewalk from this location.
So unless it was designed to be able to be dropped anywhere
Oh my
in case
God.
of emergency,
Fucking good catch. Fucking good catch.
like the
That's
airlock
a really good catch.
only seems to be here so that they don't just let a bunch of seawater in.
Yeah, or like I guess if they're on any planet and they have to then rescue them, it's like probably maybe it's an emergency hatch.
That's
I
what
don't
I'm
know.
saying.
So
Like, if this is detachable on purpose, they might know that it could fall into. And then he does say that it has orbital stabilizers. So, like, maybe the plan was to eject it, let it keep orbiting, and then catch up with it and re-enter through the hatch.
Totally.
I don't know.
Because the rest of the ship isn't here, right?
Yeah, it
Yeah,
does
that's
seem
right. That's right.
odd that it has an airlock.
Does
Totally.
it change anything? And this is just purely because I don't remember. We know that later, like in a few chapters, because they're here for a bit, the ship seemed to have been on its last legs because it cracks right after
Yeah.
they leave this. What we do know is thank God for this air hatch because
Yep.
it
Yes.
worked out. It's very convenient. I would also let the necessary people into the ship.
Right.
Yep.
To
Plot-wise,
save.
we were desperate for this air hatch.
Yeah, yeah. And that we understood it as an air hatch.
Yeah.
It was
Yes, yeah.
legible. It was legible even to me as a reader. So
They even had a red panel. That's gotta
Yeah,
be
like
the
you
door.
press
Oh,
the
yeah.
button and like
Yeah.
yeah.
Just
that
mash the
actually
pad,
wait,
dude.
that also
Yeah.
strikes me as odd. Oh no, they have arms. They have arms. I was like, how are they gonna get their
Andalites have
hoof
arms.
up there?
And many fingered hands,
fingered
mind you.
hands.
Yeah, don't
Many
forget that.
fingers.
So then they get in there, and here's where I think we have to end tonight. They get in there, they start to breathe air again. They're all desperately morphing. The enclosure was empty now. The four of us stood there barefoot, dressed only in our soggy morphing outfits.
Soggy.
There was one last red panel beside the door leading to the dome. Ready? Jake asked. As ready as I'll ever be, Marco said. Jake pressed it with his hand. I don't know, just imagine mashing a number pad. Yeah. The door slid open. I felt a wave of warm, this interests me, I had this underlined, incredibly fragrant air rush in. I caught a glimpse of the brilliant flash of light. And suddenly I was unconscious.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Can you set? Sorry, I'm already getting ahead. Can you set Drake on beams to stun?
We'll find out on the next episode of
On the next
The
episode.
Anidorks.
Thanks for listening to Anidorks. We'll be back soon with lots more to say. Until the Andalites return, or at least until next time. See you soon.